Hunted! 4's slippery descent of the northern mountains has deposited him in the woods outside SGI-9. With the haunting sound of menacing machinery still in pursuit, can 4 scale the forbidding walls and make his escape, or will the deadly droid deliver his demise?
You gather your equipment around you, you kind of cinch it all kind of tight and make yourself ready and lower yourself into the pool and head in the direction of that light that you could see glimmering from it. And as you take a deep breath and kind of head down under the water in that direction, you're surprised by the current that's flowing through it. And very quickly, you're no longer swimming, you're tumbling, you're being pushed through, you're doing your best to avoid any rocks and crannies and things like that. But you're carried away by the water and taken further in just the direction of the will of nature before again popping out over another waterfall and landing in an unceremonious pile on the ferns at the edge of this mountain. You've traversed your way down into the valley in the direction of SGI Area 9. The water is actually flowing away from the coast, which is interesting, but it's just because of the way this mountain range is that it has carried you in the direction of the city.
Well, 2 crash landings in one day has got to be a record, but any landing you can walk away from. So I will maybe try to pull myself into the ferns and make sure I have my gear still, and then of course try to collect my bearings.
And I should give you 2 strain for that as well.
All right. So I'm now towards SGI Area 9. The coast might be a little bit of a long shot now. So maybe my goal will be to move into this rather large complex. I mean, surely it can't be completely secure. I might be able to find and sort of creatively requisition some transport out of this area. So I may try to do that. Try to at least work my way towards a place where I can get a survey of my surroundings.
All right. Let's do a stealth check to search around. You begin heading south and heading towards SGI Area 9, and there are still a few search parties out and about. We're going to make this check 2 red, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, fortunately, my natural ability results in 3 successes and 1 advantage.
It's really difficult for the Empire to conduct a search for one pilot.
Especially a pilot as good as me. I mean, I don't even need any training. I'm naturally that stealthy, that good. So.
And how are you spending that advantage?
It's usually 2 advantage to pass it on to your next check, right? 1 advantage to pass it on to the next person in the same round. So I guess
I can just give you some more detail if you like, or you can give some strain. Okay.
Yeah, anything I might notice that might help give me some clues as to good path forward.
So I think for your advantage, you hear that whirring noise, that droid motor noise again, and it's kind of off to your west a little ways. There's this is uneven terrain, and so you're a little bit higher than where the noise is coming from, and just as you're moving towards the south, you're able to catch a glimpse of this very tall, dark trooper armor that, though black, is still glossy and gleaming in what's left of the daylight. It seems to be wandering around. It's not on a specific trajectory, but it is nearby, and it looks dangerous.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen, droids are one thing, but this guy looks, if it's what I think you're getting at here, I think this guy kind of has an obvious air of menace. I'm going to try to do my best to move away from him stealthily as I can.
And you have done so, having succeeded against his vigilance with an advantage. So you're able to place one of the dangers that is out there in the woods. Now, one of the things that you knew about this underground research facility was that they were a competitive program to the Dark Trooper program.
Okay, so this may not be a Dark Trooper per se, but something that would have been a competing product.
That's correct. I probably will have to cut this, but it's what Kuman was dealing with a lot in our first ever sessions. The mystery of the Jedi that was murdering people. If you remember back then, those years ago, the Imperial scientist was working on trying to outcreate on the Dark Trooper program. So they use those same stats. It's just narratively they're different.
Okay, cool.
But yeah. So you're able to make your way to the wall of SGI Area 9. Now, one of the interesting things about Druckenwell is that these cities do their best to segment and restrict movement around. And so they have exceedingly tall walls around the proper city limits to bar people from easily coming in and going out. I'm picturing the walls that were in the Stallone version of Dread.
Right. Okay.
So, or, the walls that you would see flying over the cities in Blade Runner, something along those lines. These big metal, just sleek walls to it. Presumably, there's an entrance. There's always a way for things to get in and out, but you'll have to look around for one if you're wanting to go inside.
Yeah, unless there's an indication that either left or right along this wall is going to be better, I may just pick a direction at random and start moving, maybe not right up against the wall, maybe in as much cover as I can, but certainly along the perimeter here until I can identify either a way to get through the wall or maybe something else of interest, like maybe patrols or roads or that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, one other piece of information I left out that I don't want to accidentally GM omit was your mission in taking out that secret base was to rid the world of these dark troopers that you have seen out and about.
So this is basically one of my targets.
It was. The research facility was developing those, and at least one seems to have survived.
Well, being more than just a pilot on the run, you still have a job to do. And if I've got one of these things chasing me, I may not be in a position to do anything about it now, but I don't know how clever this is, but I may start leaving a little bit of a trail, some signs, so that if it doesn't follow right on my tail, it might be following in the same direction so that it doesn't disappear on me.
Okay, let's do a survival check then to lead a good trail that doesn't give you away to it.
All right, what would you like to do for difficulty?
I think that we're going to make it hard, and I'll upgrade once with my token.
All right, I've got that ready to go. That's going to be 2 failures and 1 advantage.
Using the tricks and tactics they taught you in clone school to double back and kind of cover your trail and lead kind of the obvious pieces to it. But as you're moving around and you're creating this trail, you begin to hear the footsteps getting closer and getting closer and getting closer. And while it hasn't popped out of the woods on you or anything like that yet, you notice that it's not following the trail that you've laid, but it's still getting closer to you. For your advantage there, I would say that it's becoming obvious that it has some form of thermal sensor or some kind of tracking component that it's able to weed out the false trail from the real and is making progress on getting closer to you.
All right. So not a total failure, but certainly not what I want. All right. One at following, but not that close, right?
Correct. It seems that it now more or less has your scent and is heading your way.
All right. Well, I wonder if I've got a moment to maybe rig up a bit of a distraction or trap here.
Okay.
In this handy little crash survival kit, I've got this flare gun and I've got a wire spool. And thanks to my vast experience as a Clone Wars veteran, I think I have an idea that I might be able to rig up some kind of distraction using this wire spool as a trip to pull the trigger on a flare gun and maybe send it on a wild goose chase or start a fire or just distract it a little bit without having to be in the area. So maybe I might flip a light side token here to give myself a little bit of time.
Yeah, so if you want to flip a token, we will just say that exists, or you can roll a mechanics check. Since you said this, you already had a survival pack and those things were already in it.
You know what? That's a real tough choice because I actually, unlike I usually do, I actually upgraded mechanics for this character. So he's got 2 yellows. Man, let's roll the dice on it.
I mean, you can still always use the tokens to upgrade if you want to give me some back. I'm not trying to talk you out of using them.
I don't necessarily want to give you any back. I think I'd like to hold these for a rainy day. So let's try my 2 yellows versus your difficulty.
Let's see. So we're going to say if this roll is successful, you create a distraction for the trooper to head off and investigate. So I'm going to say that it's actually versus their vigilance, which will make your roll 2 red.
All right. It either works or it doesn't. perfect. One success. That's what I like to see.
So describe for me a little bit about what this trap looks like.
I mean, I'm already leaving a trail for this thing to follow, and it's clearly following it. But I know that if I wedge this flare gun into a crevice in the rock, and I tie this sort of wire or set the wire through the trigger guard against the trigger just in the right way, and then maybe string it across the path, maybe I can get it to walk through and pull the wire, which will pull the trigger and send this flare off. Maybe it'll send it off in its brush, or maybe directly at thing. Either way, giving it some pause and making it wonder what's going on while I try to escape.
So which of those do you want? Do you want to shoot the flare at it, or do you want to shoot it off in one direction?
So on this side of the mountain range, I am assuming that I've still got some trees and ground cover and whatnot, but that may not be the case.
Yeah, you definitely have thicker foliage now because you're on the south side of the ridge, and so there's less buffeting winds and things like that. So it's definitely, you've got more ferns and undergrowth to this side of the forest in this mountain.
Okay. What I may try to do is create a little bit of a fire. That might cause it a little bit more of a distraction. Maybe even if I can set this forest on fire between me and the thing, it might have to deviate and go around. I think that might be a good idea. So maybe I'll point if I can, try to point the flare gun at the most flammable bit of underbrush I could possibly find. Like if there's like a big bed of pine needles or something like that hasn't been cleared away.
Okay. And then where are you heading now that you've laid the trap?
I want to try to put this wildfire that I'm starting in a very responsible, eco-friendly kind of mindset.
What kind of you?
Yeah. I'm going to try to put this wildfire between me and the thing. So I'm going to continue to try to head east along the wall if I can. And I think it's maybe that's the direction I've been traveling already.
Mm-hmm.
If I could put a giant wall of fire between this thing and me, maybe not to stop it forever, obviously, but to slow it down would be the ideal. And then I could get some more distance and continue looking for a road or maybe a way into this SGI complex.
I like that. I like that a lot. So the trooper wasn't right on top of you, so you make your way further east a ways before the trap is going to go off. There's a set of large industrial pipes that are coming out of the wall heading north, but very quickly go underground. But they are an area that would make climbing the wall possible. There's a little bit more of a, staggered step to how these things are if you want to try and scale the wall. You also have some tokens if you want a different way into the city.
No, I think that might be good. I've got 50 meters of this high strength microfiber, which I think is intended to be some sort of rope. I've got these pipes that'll give me some better access to the wall, and of course I've got these light side tokens. The force is certainly with me on this one, so maybe I could leverage all three of these things together to kind of get me into the SGI complex in a more familiar urban setting, technological kind of situation. So maybe what I'll do is I'll use these pipes to climb up to the wall, and then on the inside to lower myself down using this microfiber, and then maybe try to disappear into this industrial area. That makes sense.
So you use the microfiber rope to scale over the wall and inside. As you get to the top of this wall, you hear the all too familiar sound of speeder bikes. Presumably those scout troopers are on their way back. The sun is beginning to set. We're getting close to nighttime now, and there's a loud crack and as the trap you sprung sets off and this fire begins. The sound of the speeder bikes gets closer and closer, and as you turn and you look, you have a moment to react, but they're bearing down on you. They've apparently spotted you from a long ways off and are beginning to fire at the wall, and you see an easy way down, I guess is what I should say. You can get down on the other side, but you've been spotted, and there's these blasts that hit the wall right below your feet. How does 4 react to all of these things?
I think I would maybe if I were a more impulsive sort of individual, I might try to gun it out with these speeder bikes, which would be probably a bad idea. I think that I would know that my best chance is to get over to this wall and away from the speeder bikes. Even though I've seen getting out of the immediate danger, I might be able to buy myself some time and maybe slip in among this industrial complex. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm definitely going to do my best to get over this wall and down the other side as quickly as possible.
As you throw the microfiber rope down the other side of the wall and kind of quickly rappel down, the bikes scream screech by overhead. But the thing about the Druckenwell urban centers is that they're very close, tight quarters, particularly around the edges. And so you have these really tall buildings obscuring a direct path to you. And I would say that you are almost in the northeast corner of the city center of the city. The attack that you knew was taking place was pretty much near the center. And then you know that the kind of catty corner to that end of the city, or heading to the south side of the city, would be the way out to Central Isthmus.
I know the attack kicked off around dawn. It's very unlikely they're still there, which means catching a ride with them is going to be probably not a viable solution. I know that whatever happened around the area they were making this attack would likely be the source of a lot of activity and investigation. So maybe what I'm going to try to do is skirt my way around the perimeter of this city. I know it's going to take me a while, and try to get down to that south exit. Because now that I'm in the SGI sector, I think maybe trying to get myself to Central Isthmus rather than directly picked up by the rebel forces might be my best chance to get out of here. So we're just going to continue, since I'm on the northeast side, we're going to continue around the east and just kind of try to skirt the perimeter and move through these areas.
So you kind of take the back alley and are backtracking only just a little bit, kind of to follow the wall along as you work your way through the narrow passageways and things like that. You notice that there is a lot of stormtrooper and Imperial activity buzzing about the city. Before you cross the street here, before you get over this way over there, you hear groups of trooper steps, and as you duck by, they march by and things like that. The other noticeable thing is that you don't see a lot of citizenry. You don't see a lot of people out of their homes or things like that. As you move more and more to the south, you see a bit more, you're crossing more of the activity that has occurred in the city, and you can see that there's a moment as you're moving by that you see a large group of individuals just in civilian clothes being marched to the north by a set of stormtroopers. These look like civilians that have been arrested. You overhear one of them, call them rioters or something to that effect. And you can see that there's even more troopers kind of going door to door and making arrests and things along those lines. You get an opportunity to kind of skirt the very edge of the Imperial Freedom Plaza. This was a large plaza that had the central transport depot. It was a way of connecting the mass transport for the planet. There was a large bazaar or outdoor shopping mall with lots of booths and things like that. There was even a wooded area with a lake that you can see is all fairly battle scarred at this point. There's a lot of troopers, a lot of drop ships for troopers, and a lot of activity, clearly responding to the attack that was made earlier. You can see down at the southeast corner of the plaza, which was you knew to be the target, that there's this large plume of smoke out there, and clearly a lot of damage has been done to that building. And I think I'd like you to make a average vigilance check.
Okay. Oh, ouch. It's gonna hurt. 3 failure, 2 advantage.
So 3 failures and 2 advantage. So you saw this crowd of civilians being marched north away from the plaza by the troopers as you kind of darted in between the alleys. As you're kind of making your way past this area, you do notice that a couple, just 2 or 3 individuals and a stretcher is being loaded onto a shuttle and being taken up. And as you follow that shuttle up, you come to realize that descending kind of in true Imperial fashion, this Imperial Star Destroyer is situating itself right over SGI, and it's similar to what we saw in Rogue One, right? Over Jeddah.
Right.
That clearly this whole area is going into an Imperial lockdown. and it won't be long before there's, troopers at every exit, and all the ways out are going to be covered.
Well, I'm going to have to start looking for, obviously, a way out. Maybe I may need to commandeer one of these transport craft. Ideally, one of these shuttles or maybe something else. But I start looking around for likely transportation options here.
Well, there's definitely the Imperial shuttles and landing craft around and in the plaza. There's a large number of them. There's a couple of those Lambda class shuttles. There's a handful more of more or less drop ships, that would carry a handful or a dozen or so troopers just straight down to for like invasions and things like along those lines that could be flown around. But the main activity in the plaza is almost a full battalion of stormtroopers. It's a significantly larger presence than was here just yesterday.
I kind of like the idea of commandeering one of these Lambda class shuttles. I know that their crew is kind of limited as far as the flight crew goes. I'm hoping that maybe I can scope out a likely target that won't be necessarily surrounded by a lot of these stormtroopers. Maybe I can sneak on, take out the flight crew, and get out of there.
Okay.
So maybe what I'll do is I'll start looking to identify a likely target. I think the dropships might be a little bit of a harder target on that. But these Lambda class shuttles, I know they've got a very small flight crew for what they are.
Mm-hmm. So you can work your way around the plaza. You carefully kind of pick your way a little bit further south. There's a large kind of concrete and brick plaza that was a courtyard, if you will, that was pretty large, that saw some of the brunt of the battle. But there's 2 Lambda class shuttles parked down there right now, and it's more or less Imperial Freedom Plaza is the central park of SGI Area 9. You've got tall buildings all the way around it, but these are this park is just a large kind of open area. It's still got trees and things like that. There's definitely been some fire up in the northern side and stuff along those lines, but you can tell that the Imperial troops have been tasked with kind of blocking this area off. They're beginning to build barricades and things along those lines.
Well, I figure the longer I wait, the more these barricades are going to get, the more established these defenses are going to get. So maybe I'll try to slip in as soon as possible. I'm wearing this bright orange Shock Rider crash suit. It may be a good idea for me to maybe change. So I know this area had some market or bazaar kind of area, maybe I'll look for something to robe myself in, or perhaps get out of this crash suit in something not quite as conspicuous, and then I'll make my way towards one of these shuttles if possible.
I have an idea, but it's entirely up to you, Paul. Did Four stash his old clone armor anywhere in his survival kit?
That's a good idea.
I think it would take a light side point, but couldn't hurt.
Yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't have some of that good old-fashioned clone flight armor. It's served him well in the past. That's he'd probably have a hard time parting with, and I think I'd be willing to spend a light side point on that.
So this is very similar to Stormtrooper armor, but the clones tended to paint and make colorful their armor. What does Four's clone armor look like? Thanks for joining us in the Dicey Cantina, and thanks to Paul for playing in these episodes. If you're enjoying the show, be sure and leave a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcatcher. And if you're interested in behind-the-scenes content, bonus episodes, and early release, check out our Patreon. Thanks to everyone who's donated to Destiny so far, and if you're interested in donating, check out the link in the show notes. Also in the show notes are the links to all our social media, so reach out and stay in touch, particularly on Discord. Be sure and stay tuned for a preview of another great podcast. But that's all for now, so pull up a stool, and we'll see you next time on the Dicey Cantina.
Do you enjoy Star Wars, RPGs, and actual play podcasts? Then you'll love the Starbirds. Here are a few clips from their upcoming season, set in Hutt space.
Ever wondered what a pickle tastes like in space? take a monster pickle, throw it to the side, and then put on just put on the helmet and wait. He's just like eagerly like sitting out right by the door,
You
looking
just like
out.
sealed your head in a container where you're munching down on a pickle. That's the gases you're causing.
It's a fear factor game.
Yeah.
You have to eat all these pickles inside this jar. Ever left your comm link on while you're in the refresher?
You're alone in the refresher, kid. Kid, please.
He like gets so stressed out and just
He's
holds
like
down the button.
singing in the shower and stuff, and they're like, "Oh my god, not again!"
Just like, oh, I'm gonna make a sandwich. Oh, I like these. Oh, mayonnaise on a sandwich.
He just narrates his life.
Peanut butter for the kid.
I thought he's in the bathroom.
Ever been stranded on a ship with people you can barely stand? Okay, I'm about to J.K. Simmons from Whiplash.
Start clapping at my head.
If you cannot get this,
Meanwhile, Gad is just like sweating
I will throw a
profusely like
symbol
the kid.
at your head.